And now we're joined by our guest. He is Dan Orlovsky. You know him from ESPN. He does some color analyst on some of their college games. He's always on NFL Live. And you should check out his new podcast. It got right to the top of my list. It's called Tape Heads. It's with Scott Pioli, Bob Wischusen, and, of course, Dan, who studies all of that tape. Dan, you got Schmeelk here. Good to talk to you, man. How's everything?
Yeah, everything is great, bud. It's really, really good to talk with you, especially for the Giants after coming off a really good win on the road, right? So it's good to be with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We were texting last week, and we were joking back and forth about the Giants needing to get big plays, and I think they listened. They led the league in explosives in week 4 in terms of passes over 15 yards. What'd you see in that game that allowed them to start getting some of those explosive plays?
Yeah, I think, first of all, that the coaches understood that, specifically Jason Garrett, they had to help some of those. It's not often, hey, I called this play, just go make it happen. A couple plays stand out to me. First of all, the John Ross touchdown. That was what we call a P and 10. It's first down within the position. You get that. There's often these tendencies that defenses will give you. Hey, the defense loves to come out when we give them 12 personnel to start a position. They're going to give us their nickel front and cover 4. And that's kind of what happened in this situation. P and 10, you get the opportunity to understand or kind of assume the defense is going to be in a coverage and you take your shot. So that is coaching. Now, credit Daniel Jones and Ross for the execution, but that is coaching. A couple chunk throws in the play-action game I loved because they presented the defense with the same formation, slot, 2 back, condensed splits, and ran one route concept and came back in the second half, same formation, same look, same action, but a different route concept. That's not something the Giants have done. I love the fact of the Saquon Barkley touchdown because earlier in that game, they ran empty set, Saquon Barkley outside, and ran that stick route, and Daniel Jones threw it to him. Well, they come back to the same thought process, and the thing for me is that is something that is talked about on the sideline with Daniel Jones. Hey, Marshawn Lattimore is getting nosy. He's getting eyes in the backfield when we put Saquon outside. We're going to give him the same look. Let's take our shot downfield. And, again, it's always tied together, but I just love the fact that it seemed the coaches really understood, all right, there's some stuff here that we can do to help these guys go create some of these explosive plays.
No, Dan, I'm with you. 4 of those explosive plays came on first down off of play action. One of those came off an RPO on second down. So they were trying to set those up. And how much, too, had to do with what the defense was showing them, right? Because the first 3 weeks, the Falcons, Denver, and Washington, they play a lot of that, quarters, cover 2 shell stuff. The Saints, much more aggressive type of defense where those opportunities, I think, are probably a little bit more available. And they had some blown coverages back there, too. How much is what defenses are showing you going to impact the type of explosive opportunities you're going to have week in, week out? And what do you see from the Cowboys defense from that respect coming up in week 5?
Yeah, so when you're playing these zone defenses, and we're seeing this throughout the NFL, kind of talked about it leading into the season, teams are very focused on not giving up these, huge chunk plays, and that's why they're playing these 2 high shell defenses. All right, you got to drive the length of the field on us for 4 quarters.
Yep.
10 plays after 10 plays after 10 plays. And it just takes discipline to do that. And it's hard to create chunks in that. The Saints are very much a man-based defense. Now, a lot of times it's that 2-man, so 2 safeties deep, man underneath. But when you're playing man defense, you're going to have more than likely a lesser completion percentage, but also a greater chance for some big plays. And I think you saw that. And so it's always it should be a week-by-week kind of trial and error basis. But the big thing is when the opportunities present themselves, because there's not that many, no matter what defense, when the opportunity presents up, you got to hit it.
Yeah.
The Ross touchdown, you got to make it. You got to make that throw. They did. The Saquon Barkley shot, you got to make that throw, and they did. And so, it's always about minimal opportunities and striking when you can.
All right. How about Daniel Jones himself? We've talked about the scheme and how they help develop some of those big throws. Generally speaking, what is it you like most about the steps that Daniel Jones has taken in year 3, where it seems like, at least through 4 games, he might be en route to a breakout year?
Yeah, I think this is a very simple thing to say, but an incredibly difficult thing to do. He has not been careless. And there's a difference, right? Because I do believe he's been aggressive with it, and I do believe he's put the ball in harm's way. You have to. You have to be a really good passing team. But he's not been careless with it. And I remember being with Gary Kubiak, and Gary Kubiak said something to me when I was a younger player that really impacted me. He said, you got to understand, everybody's job in this organization is in the palm of your hands with that ball. Everybody's. And once you really realize that, both the positive and the negative, it can change you. And it seems, at least through the first month of the season, Daniel Jones is starting to grasp something like that. And I love that. Listen, he's always been good with his ball placement. He's always been accurate. He's always had the ability to anticipate or throw to a spot. But then he's also had those 2 or 3 plays a game. You go, dude, what are you doing? What are we? Why? Why, Daniel? Why? And I said this going into the season, John. I want Daniel to play as smart as he is. And first week of the season, that red zone interception, you're going, Bud, come on. That we can't have. And the past couple of weeks, we've seen him get away from that. And that is very promising.
I also think the other thing, too, Dan, is that he seems to be playing faster and the game seems to be slowing down for him. The ball is getting out a lot quicker, which is not allowing those defensive linemen to get there, which then just reduces the opportunity for him to have some of those fumbles in the pocket.
Yeah, I'd say a couple things attached to that. I think a lot of us have been critical of Dave Gettleman. Some of it's justified, right? I'm included. I think the offensive line has been better than a lot of us expected. Me, certainly. And Gettleman said going into this season, I think this group's going to be better than people expect. So at least, again, through the first month, I want to say he was right. So I think that's part of it. Number 2, we're watching this team run more RPOs than they ever have.
Yep.
I know we think RPOs are simplistic, and in many ways they are. Now, they're also difficult to operate for a quarterback, for receivers, but it also helps your offensive linemen. I don't think you live in them if you're the Giants, but sometimes it's just, it's nice to clear their minds. Hey, this is the run play. Let's go. Wait, the ball came out in 1 second. Defensive linemen are running downfield because we just hit a slant to Kadarius Toney for 14, And so I think that's helping the overall offense. And also, you got to get guys. He's got guys that can get open a little bit. I don't want to be disrespectful to guys that have passed, but, Galladay's winning more. Shep, outside of, last week and not playing, winning more. Kadarius Toney, them understanding, guys getting open gives quarterbacks a little bit more of a feel and belief. All right, I could get this ball out of my hands because I trust that they're going to be there.
Yeah, the other thing I'll throw out there too, Dan, I want to get your quarterback perspective take on this. For the last year specifically with Jason Garrett, the Giants are one of the higher percentage run teams in the first halves of games on 1st and 10s. This year in the first half, they're just 43% run on first down. That's 11th in the league. But on 1st and 10, they're 38% run frequency on first down. It's the lowest rate in the entire NFL. How much does it help for a quarterback when you get some more play action on first down, you get some more pass opportunities against run looks on defense, where then you might have more opportunities for those types of big plays we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It's not only just for the quarterback. When a quarterback gets a play action call on first down, right? Your immediate thought process is, I got a chance for a big play. Maybe it's not the 70-yard touchdown, but I got a chance for a big, so that gives you like that confidence, that almost shaping of the mindset of, all right, here's my chance. But it also gives you, 1, I feel like I can be protected, and then 2, and if it's not there, if that can have a check down, I'm like, can get the ball to and get it out of my hands. It also allows quarterbacks a lot of these play action passes, a lot of play action concepts. Quarterbacks don't need to know the coverage pre-snap.
Right.
You don't have to go through those mental agility hoops of, is it cover 2 or is it cover 4? Is it cover 6 or is it 2? Is it 6 strong? Is it cover 1? Sometimes, play action pass concepts are often progression based. Hey man, it's 1, 2, 3, check down. 1, 2, 3. So it forces you to just kind of play a little freer. You're not paralysis by analysis pre-snap oftentimes. And so there's so much benefit to call in play action pass on early downs for quarterbacks.
How close do you think Saquon Barkley in the run game is, Dan, to really becoming a factor here? Because while I think the offensive line, I agree, has been better than we thought in pass protection, I don't think the run game has necessarily been as good as a lot of us thought it could be, because it actually wasn't bad last year with Wayne Gallman. It hasn't showed up yet this year. How close do you think Barkley and this run game are to really starting to get off here, which would give the offense another dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, that's also so game plan specific of how you're going to get played and whatnot. I don't think they have any real people movers, guys that can dent the defense, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so the run game, I think for this offense, they're actually looking at their run game being a complementary aspect rather than vice versa. I don't believe this offense is going to be founded on the run game. I don't. I think this offense is going to be, moving forward, founded on the pass game and the run game being the secondary option. And again, I don't want to continue to go back to it too much, but the run-pass option aspect of things factors in because some points, defenses are going to force the ball to get handed off and not allow those, slants to come from behind or glances to come from behind. And so I think we'll see a little bit more of, as the season goes, if they're going to continue to have success in the pass aspect of the RPO, force the handoff a little bit and then rally to the ball.
Do you see the roles in the passing game starting to kind of smooth out a little bit, where you see this is where Kadarius Toney fits, this is where Kenny Golladay fits? How do you see that coming together?
Yeah, I think you understand that Kenny Golladay, and you knew this, he's a guy that you want to move him around and you really want to give him in-breaking routes. You want to give him routes that he's able to go in the field or crossing the field because he can use his big body. And then opportunities to maybe take some shots downfield towards the side. I don't think Kenny Galladay's this comeback runner or out route runner or, corner runner. I just don't believe that. But allowing his big body to be kind of the rebounding aspect in basketball, you're realizing he's good at that stuff. I think Kadarius Toney's a guy that you feel good giving him opportunities to separate from people, meaning, his route tree I don't believe is going to be as down the field, so to speak, as Kenny Galladay's, but giving him your slants, your quick outs, your sticks, your shallow crosses. Again, also utilizing him in your run game with the jet sweeps, your perimeter screens. I think you're realizing that Shep can kind of do anything, so to speak. He's the guy that wins at the top of the routes on a consistent basis. So, yeah, I think, and I honestly believe, I would say I think Saquon is getting to a place. I remember watching him run a route week 1, week 2, and I was like, gosh, Saquon, this is a bad route. And that's something he's actually better at, but he just wasn't maybe there yet. I think giving him the ability to run more actual routes lined up as a wide receiver, I think is something this offense can kind of grow into as well.
All right, break down this matchup this week against the Cowboys. A huge game for the Giants, Dan. At 1-3, if they win this game, they're right in the thick of things. They get a win in the NFC East. If they lose, all of a sudden that game against the Saints doesn't mean quite as much. So what do the Giants need to do this week to slow down that Cowboys offense and come out of there with a win?
Yeah, I think defensive line-wise, and maybe even that front seven, they got to match the physicality. Dallas's offensive line is violent right now. It is a violent group. You got to match their physicality. They got to have a plan for when Dallas brings their 6th offensive lineman into the game. And I'll be interested to see what Patrick Graham does, because you can't just play with your base front seven in that aspect, because they got 6 bigs on the field. You got to match their bigs. And I know that that's challenging because, okay, they're play action game, but you got to match the violence and the physicality at the line of scrimmage. I think you got to do a really good job of doing everything you can to keep the ball in front of you. I really believe that them kind of having the philosophy of what the Patriots fit to Tom Brady is going to be a big deal. And the challenge is the Cowboys offense does such a great job of changing their tempos in the huddle and at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes that ball is going to get snapped with 15 seconds on the play clock. Sometimes it's 20. Sometimes it's 9. Sometimes it's 6. But the Patriots did such a good job of changing their look late in the play clock. And so Cowboys really want to get to the line of scrimmage. Okay, defense, what are you in? You're in man coverage, right? We're going to get into a man coverage concept. Or you're in too high shell defense. Well, here comes our run game. And the more you can try to confuse Dak, hey, Dak, we are going to give you a too high look here. get into your run game, dude. All right, now we know he's made the check into his run game. Let's get into an extra man down in the box, single high safety. So I think you really got to do a great job of your disguise, getting their offense into the scheme that you want them to get into, and then protecting against it, I think, is a fascinating part of this football game. And then offensively, you know, the Cowboys are doing a really good job in man coverage. I would double move the absolute doors off Trayvon Diggs. I know he's a great player. I would double move him. I'm not going to let that young man, he's playing great football. He's not allowed to sit on my routes. He's just not allowed to, man. And I would double move him. I would try to put their linebackers in conflict pre-snap motion. I know that's not what the Giants do, but I would get those cats in coverage as well. Micah Parsons has been great. Let's see how good you are when you want to cover 26. You know, like, again, I want to stress these guys. I'm not letting Dallas's defense play play to their pace, you know, to dictate to me. I'm dictating it to them. And then when you get man coverage, your ball placement's going to have to be great. Now, that's a Daniel Jones strength, so you feel good about that.
All right, two quick follow-ups. One, on the defensive side of the ball for the Giants, it seems based on what you're talking about with their pace and having to make those adjustments, not having Blake Martinez out there could be a real problem because he seems like a guy that would be good at the type of things you're talking about, and having a young guy like Tay Crowder out there. Now, he can get help with the Logan Ryans of the world at safety, but it seems like that could be a little bit of an issue, and they're going to have to be careful with that.
Yeah, and that's where I think you lean on those two vet safeties in Pep and Logan Ryan. Those guys, you know, and a big part of it is listen, it doesn't necessarily matter who starts the call as long as everybody's on the phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you got to trust that those guys can get you into the right stuff. And for a player like Tay Crowder, his job is just to be great with his relaying. You know, and maybe he is the type of guy that you feel comfortable for him owning that stuff. But as long as everybody gets on the same phone call, that's all that matters. And whoever starts it, I don't think necessarily is the biggest thing. It's just making sure all players are relaying.
All right, and then finally, where do you think they're going to play Micah Parsons this week? You know, to me, I watched that Carolina Panther game yesterday. Why they didn't have him lining up over the Panthers tackles a little bit more, I'm not quite sure, given how good he was at rushing the passer in week 2 and 3. Do you think they can use him more off ball with them releasing Jalen Smith? Is he going to go back to being a pass rusher this week? How do you think Dallas is going to try to utilize Micah Parsons?
Yeah, I still think they'll probably play him inside. You know, especially because the way Randy Gregory played, just candidly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Randy Gregory and if you're going to get that from Randy Gregory as a pass rusher at a defensive end spot, you're playing really good football. I also think their defensive tackles are playing better, so it's allowing Micah to roam. And then the real reality is, you know, even on early downs, I've always said this, the teams that are playing good defense, man, they're taking their third down defensive calls and calling them on first down because that's what good offenses do. You know, when you put Micah Parsons up into the line of scrimmage as an inside linebacker, you got to ask yourself questions on offense. Hey, who's blocking this guy in our pass game? Because if you're going to say, well, the offensive line has to be responsible for him,
right?
Well, then there's the risk that you're putting your back on one of their bigs, one of their defensive linemen, defensive ends. All right, well, you sure you want to live in that world? Because if you're going to say, well, no, we can't do that, well, then you got to have your back block them. And that's a challenge, right? And so I think because of that, it gives them just a little bit more confusion, flexibility to create for the offense.
You're right. We saw the play last week when Parsons blitzed up the middle, and he basically, you know, the running back tried to cut him, right? And he basically popped over him and ended up still getting the sack. So you're right, Dan. All right, Dan, appreciate the time, my friend. Tell the folks everything you're up to at ESPN, and tell everyone about your new podcast, Tapeheads.
Yeah, ESPN, obviously, you know, I'm blessed to be a part of Get Up on Monday morning, strictly because we're the first people on TV after Sunday games, which I love. You know, NFL Live, I'm on Monday through Thursday. It's the best. We do such a – we take a lot of pride in trying to be really great teachers, but also entertaining. The crew is just a joy to work with, both on screen and off screen. And then, you know, college football, calling games with Bobby Shue is the best. And we started a podcast with Scott Pioli. And I'm not just saying this, man. Like, the stuff that Scott brings is so interesting to me. And Bob is fantastic with how he moves in and out. And he's also – I don't know if you know Bob at all, but Bob's got a great ability to make sure he's sharing his opinion. And he's been around football for so long, he knows ball. And I'm doing a lot. It's really fun to be a part of. I'm super thankful for it.
Yeah, I thought the stuff Pioli was telling you guys about this week, about how the front office is basically a servant to the coaching staff, was just fascinating.
Yeah, exactly, man. It was really cool.
Get to work, Dan. I know you're busy. We appreciate you carving out a few minutes for us. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of the season, brother.
Thank you, bud.
We thank Dan Orlovsky for joining us on this week's episode of the Giants Huddle podcast. Great conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. For Dan, I'm Schmeelk. Thanks for checking out the Giants Huddle podcast, which is on the Giants mobile app at giants.com/podcast and your favorite podcast platforms. It's also home of the All In NYG podcast, which celebrates the 10th anniversary of the Super Bowl 46 championship. Those episodes drop once a week. We took a week off this week, but they'll be back next week. Make sure you check it out. For Dan, I'm Schmeelk. See you next time on the Giants Huddle.